For many of us, driving has never been just a way to get from one place to another. It represents freedom, independence, the ability to leave the house whenever we choose, visit family and friends, attend appointments, go shopping, or simply enjoy a drive on a beautiful afternoon. For decades, getting behind the wheel has been part of everyday life. Many of us learned to drive as teenagers. Our first car represented possibility. Later, we drove to work, took our children to school, headed out on family vacations, celebrated milestones, and visited loved ones. The car became much more than transportation. It became part of our identity. That's why conversations about driving can become some of the most emotional discussions families ever have. No one wants to imagine a day when getting behind the wheel may no longer be the safest choice. It's not simply about giving up a driver's license. For many people, it feels like giving up a part of their independence. Yet for many retirees, that day eventually arrives, not because of one dramatic event, but because small changes happen gradually over time. Vision may not be as sharp as it once was. Reaction times may become a little slower. Driving at night may feel more challenging. Busy intersections or unfamiliar roads may create more stress than they used to. None of these changes automatically make someone an unsafe driver. In fact, many older adults continue driving safely for many years. The goal is never to judge someone based on age. The goal is to recognize that our abilities naturally change throughout life, and that honest self-awareness helps keep both ourselves and others safe. Unfortunately, many families avoid this conversation for as long as possible. Adult children may worry about hurting a parent's feelings. Parents may fear losing their independence. Everyone hopes someone else will bring up the subject first. Sometimes families simply wait, hoping the issue will somehow resolve itself. But waiting until after a close call, or worse, after an accident, often makes the conversation far more difficult. Planning ahead creates options. It allows families to explore transportation alternatives before they become necessary. It gives everyone time to adjust emotionally and practically. Most importantly, it allows the older driver to remain part of the decision instead of feeling that decisions are being made for them. This conversation is not about taking away someone's freedom. It's about protecting their independence for as long as possible. Throughout this episode, we'll explore how to recognize the early warning signs, how to approach these conversations with empathy and respect, and how thoughtful planning can help retirees continue living active, fulfilling, and independent lives, even when driving eventually becomes part of a new chapter. One of the biggest challenges about driving is that changes often happen so gradually that we hardly notice them ourselves. Most people don't wake up one morning and suddenly become an unsafe driver. Instead, small changes can develop over months or even years. That's why recognizing the warning signs early is so important. Many of these signs are subtle. Perhaps driving at night has become more stressful than it used to be. Bright headlights may create more glare. Reading road signs might require a little more effort. Busy intersections may feel overwhelming, especially when traffic is moving quickly. Some people begin avoiding highways, heavy traffic, or unfamiliar roads altogether. These adjustments don't necessarily mean someone should stop driving. In many cases, they simply reflect normal changes that come with age. However, they are also reminders that it's worth paying closer attention to how comfortable and confident we feel behind the wheel. Family members sometimes notice changes before the driver does. Perhaps there are new dents or scratches on the car that can't easily be explained. Maybe friends mention that the driver seems hesitant at intersections or reacts more slowly than before. Getting lost on familiar routes, missing traffic signs, or confusing the gas and brake pedals are much more serious warning signs and should never be ignored. Another important sign is what happens after the drive is over. Do you feel unusually tired after driving a short distance? Has driving become stressful instead of enjoyable? Do you avoid driving after dark because it no longer feels comfortable? These are all questions worth asking ourselves honestly. It's also important to remember that many medical conditions can affect driving. Changes in vision, hearing, arthritis, diabetes, sleep disorders, or the side effects of certain medications can all influence reaction time, judgment, or overall awareness. That's why regular medical checkups are an important part of staying safe behind the wheel. Fortunately, recognizing these warning signs doesn't automatically mean giving up driving. Sometimes a vision correction, a medication review, or limiting driving to daylight hours can make a significant difference. Defensive driving refresher courses designed for older adults may also help improve confidence and refresh important driving skills. The key is to remain open, honest, and willing to adapt. Recognizing change is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. By paying attention to these early warning signs, retirees can continue making thoughtful decisions that protect both their independence and the safety of everyone who shares the road. Family is different. There is no perfect script for this conversation, but there are better ways and more difficult ways to begin it. Let's look at a few examples. Imagine a father has stopped driving at night. His daughter notices that every time the family has dinner together, he asks someone else to drive him home. Instead of saying, "Dad, I think you should stop driving," she says, "Dad, I've noticed you don't seem to enjoy driving after dark anymore. Has it become more difficult?" Instead of becoming defensive, he replies, "The headlights bother me now. I just don't feel as comfortable." The conversation has started, not with criticism, but with understanding. Now consider another situation. A husband has driven safely for more than 60 years. After a recent trip to the grocery store, his wife gently says, "I noticed that parking lot seemed more stressful than it used to be." He smiles and says, "It was busier than I expected." She replies, "Would it make life easier if I drove when we go shopping together?" It's not about proving who should drive, it's about working together. Here's another example. A family is driving home after attending a grandchild's soccer game. Grandpa misses a stop sign. Nothing happens, no accident, no one is hurt. Instead of criticizing him in the car, the family waits until the next day. His son says, "Dad, yesterday gave me a little scare. How did you feel about it?" Grandpa pauses. "Honestly, I didn't even see the sign until the last second." That honest answer creates an opportunity to talk about eyesight, reaction time, and whether a vision check might be helpful. Sometimes the conversation isn't about stopping driving. It's about making small adjustments. Now imagine a different situation. A retired couple is planning their future together. Neither of them has experienced any serious driving problems. Over coffee one morning, they ask each other, "If one of us ever feels uncomfortable driving, what's our plan?" They discuss nearby family members, community transportation, ride-sharing services, even grocery delivery. No one is losing independence. They're simply planning ahead, just as they planned for retirement itself. Finally, imagine an older driver saying, "I'm afraid everyone thinks I'm too old to drive." A granddaughter gently replies, "That's not what we're saying at all. We want you to stay active, independent, and safe for as long as possible. We're planning with you, not for you." Sometimes those few words make all the difference. Every family's situation will be unique. But the conversations that lead to the best outcomes usually have one thing in common. They begin with listening. They continue with respect. and they focus on protecting independence, not taking it away. When families approach the subject with empathy instead of judgment, they often discover that the conversation becomes much easier than they ever expected. For many people, the thought of driving less, or eventually stopping altogether, raises one overwhelming question. What happens to my independence? The answer may surprise you. Independence has never been defined by a driver's license. It's defined by the ability to continue living the life you enjoy. Today's retirees have more transportation choices than any previous generation. Many communities offer senior transportation programs for medical appointments, shopping, and social activities. Ride-sharing services have become easier to use, and many families now help coordinate rides using simple smartphone apps. Some neighborhoods even organize volunteer driver programs, helping older adults remain active without the stress of driving themselves. For some retirees, choosing not to drive in certain situations actually creates more confidence. Driving during daylight instead of at night, avoiding busy highways, letting someone else drive on longer trips. These aren't signs of giving up, they're examples of making smart decisions. Technology has also changed daily life in remarkable ways. Groceries can be delivered to your front door. Many prescriptions can be delivered as well. Video appointments with healthcare providers are becoming more common. Simple errands that once required several trips each week may now be completed from home. Perhaps the biggest surprise is this. Many retirees discover they become more socially active after exploring new transportation options. Friends begin traveling together, neighbors help one another, community centers organize group activities and transportation. Family visits become planned occasions instead of stressful driving commitments. Independence doesn't disappear. It simply begins to look different. It's also worth remembering that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Throughout life, we've all relied on others in different ways. Accepting a ride from a friend or family member doesn't reduce your independence. It often strengthens the relationships that matter most. The goal is not to drive for as long as possible. The goal is to remain active, connected, confident, and safe. When transportation becomes one part of a thoughtful retirement plan, new opportunities often appear where we least expect them. Life after driving can still be full of friendships, family, purpose, and freedom. Sometimes protecting our independence simply means choosing a different road to get there. As we've seen throughout this episode, the conversation about driving is rarely just about driving. It's about independence, confidence, safety, and adapting to life's natural changes with dignity. The truth is, retirement brings many important transitions. Some are financial, others involve our health. Some affect where we live. Others influence how we stay connected with family and friends. Transportation is simply another one of those transitions. The families who navigate these changes most successfully usually have one thing in common. They don't wait for a crisis, they plan ahead. Just as we prepare financially for retirement, we can also prepare for the practical changes that may come later in life. That might mean discussing transportation options before they're needed, learning about community services, talking openly with family members, or simply agreeing that if circumstances change, everyone will approach the conversation with honesty, respect, and compassion. Planning ahead doesn't reduce independence. It protects it. It's also important to remember that giving up the driver's seat doesn't mean giving up an active life. Many retirees continue traveling, volunteering, visiting friends, enjoying hobbies, and spending meaningful time with family long after they've chosen other ways to get around. Their independence hasn't disappeared. It's simply taken a different form. Perhaps that's the most important lesson of all. Retirement is not about holding on to yesterday. It's about making thoughtful choices that allow us to enjoy tomorrow. Every stage of life asks us to adapt in different ways. Those adaptations are not signs of failure. They are signs of wisdom, experience, and resilience. If this conversation ever becomes part of your family's journey, remember that kindness will always accomplish more than criticism. Listening will always accomplish more than arguing. And planning together will always accomplish more than waiting until choices become limited. At the Retirement Briefing, we believe retirement planning is about much more than finances. It's about protecting your independence, your dignity, your relationships, and your quality of life. Because the goal has never been to keep driving forever. The goal has always been to keep living well. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this episode helpful, please consider subscribing to the Retirement Briefing and sharing it with someone who may benefit from this conversation. And remember, the best retirement plans don't prepare us for one moment. They prepare us for every chapter that comes next.